this is a real kicker. They used to have shelves to display their ornaments. So you know how in houses today, you go in and people...
You know how in houses today we have shelves. In my head, that's what's happening at Stonehenge, because I was like, how has no Donny gone over and tried to knock over the stone? What?
I don't think it is. It said Lock and Tongue on the British Heritage site.
Don't tell me you have to pay to go see some stones.
They didn't have wine back in the day, but we're going to have a glass because this is actually tiresome work. I can't do it. Hello and welcome back to Gobs and Goblets with me, Maddie.
And me, Hannah.
So today we're actually going to be looking at meats, and the reason is because last time we looked at foraging, and as people change from hunter-gatherers into the next stages of life, well, livestock and cattle and meat eating became even more popular and more accessible. So, without further ado, we're going to go straight into the Neolithic Revolution.
Sorry, quick question.
Yeah?
I'm talking about still like Neanderthals and like fire.
But we did Neanderthals last week.
Yeah, but it's how they got meat. I thought that was the whole point. You're talking about the agricultural revolution. Talking about the first fire they made. Hi guys, so me and Maddie have just found out that we've kind of researched two completely different things, but they still interlink. It's all about meat, it's all about non-veganism. So yeah, but I'm gonna take you I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna take you like right back to like hunting, to like when they were first using fire. Maddie's talking about like a whole agricultural revolution.
Come on.
I'm a couple 100,000 years back. So
as life happens.
As life happens. So I'm gonna kick us off today. Hello. So my main question for this was obviously meat. Obviously this whole idea of raw meat was being eaten, When was fire introduced? Now, obviously, I think we all have this image of like, oh, cavemen and fire and the first fire being created, and, you know, the cavemen putting two stones together like that and there was fire and they were like, ooh. Do you not see that like in the movies and the animations? There's this whole idea of what happened. However, I'm going to ruin what you all know. I'm so sorry. The truth is we don't actually know let me get to it, but we don't actually know how it happened. So I'm going to start. The first earliest evidence of fire was actually found in Kenya around 1.6 million years ago. The first evidence of food being cooked was on a carp-like fish, and this was actually found in the site that I was talking about 2 weeks ago in our first episode, Gesher Benot Yaakov, which is in Israel, and they found the remains of the carp-like fish there, and it was cooked. And this was from 780,000 years ago. So that's our first evidence of food being cooked with fire. Now, like I said, how were these fires made? We don't actually know. So there's two plausible reasons. There's either A, what we see in films of, you know, the cavemen, Neanderthals just put two flints together, or God knows, and there was a spark and fire happened. That's one possible reason. The second possible reason is actually due to natural causes. So that could be forest fires or things like lightning striking a branch, and then there's just this image I have in my head of like a caveman being like, oh, and like running to get it and then lighting.
If you knew nothing, if
you knew nothing, yeah, and you saw a branch suddenly alight with this thing, this orange hot thing that you never...
When have you seen orange lightning?
No, I mean the fire. The fire. Obviously you'd go near it.
Yeah, true say.
Or maybe you wouldn't, but I don't know what their sense of danger was like. That's a good question.
That's a really good question.
Next week we'll find out and we'll let you all know. But yeah, so we don't actually know. What we also don't know is when fire started being used, like, all the time. Was it used all the time? Was it not? Again, we don't actually know. But I will tell you what we do know. So during the Palaeolithic period...
The Palaeolithic? Paleolithic?
Oh, Palaeolithic?
Paleolithic,
Sorry.
I think. I don't know, actually, now that you've said that.
So what we do know, during the Palaeolithic or Paleolithic period, we don't know the pronunciation as per. So that was around 200,000 years ago to 40,000 years ago. There are evidence of hearths. So hearths were usually when homes started being built and stuff, and dens or whatever you want to call it, really, Mesolithic houses, which we'll get to in a second. The hearths usually formed the centre part of the house, and they did for many millennia later when hearths started developing into actual cooking ware and da-da-da. Now, fun fact, more etymology for you guys. The word focus actually comes from the Latin word fireplace, because it was like the focal point of the home.
I like that.
So really, like, cooking is where the heart is, home is where the heart is, you know what I mean? Like, it all interlinks, loved it. Anyway, so we know that hearths existed many years ago, and that means that people were therefore using fire to cook. However, scientists and archaeologists, there's been a lot of back and forth over the years, and there probably will be for many more years. What other scientists and archaeologists suggest is that fire was only really mastered over 12,000 years ago. Now, the reason for that is there were some sites some Neanderthal cave sites excavated in France. And what they found here is that the hearths were actually being used more during warmer seasons rather than colder seasons. Which makes no sense. If a Neanderthal's cold, they're going to want heat. Why is that? Their hypothesis is that European Neanderthals didn't know how to start fires, and therefore all the fires they were getting were naturally caused, aka from lightning, and lightning is more typical during warmer periods than it is colder periods.
And what's your hypothesis? The same thing, or?
I was going to say underdeveloped, I'm too, not
You are the Neanderthal.
My forehead ain't that big. All the hypotheses I read, to be fair, they all make sense in their own right.
Okay.
But I think I could not give my professional personal opinion on it. I really couldn't.
Because you're not a professional.
I'm not a professional. Having a podcast doesn't make you a professional. But anyway, so that was that. Now, one of the sites where we found kind of the first ever hearth. So there's a site called Skara. Now, this is one of the most important Neolithic sites in Europe. And it can be found in West Yorkshire if you want to visit. I think we should visit.
I think we should.
But anyway, it's so important. And what they found in this site was a Mesolithic house. If you don't know what Mesolithic means, like myself, Mesolithic was basically the middle period of the Stone Ages, in between Paleolithic and Neolithic times. So this is the oldest Mesolithic. This is the oldest Mesolithic house they found in Britain, and it dates back to 8,500 BC or maybe even earlier. So the reason we know this house contained a hearth in it is because they found manufacturing debris, and they also found old stone tools. So that's how we know.
Very interesting.
What animals did they eat?
This is my turn.
No. Now, I guess the question on all your minds is, will we ever know how fire started, when it started being used 24/7? Well, fire's quite a tricky one, and there's a few reasons why. 3 to be exact. 1, ashes. Ashes, they fly away, you know. The evidence doesn't stay put in one location, and this is our problem. Number 2, water. All the kind of evidence of fire can be moved from its original location to a new location. And then finally, human error is also a reason. For example, they excavated a site in China, and what they thought to be kind of layers of ash ended up being something else that I can't remember right now. But so that's it. However, there is hope. They're constantly developing archaeological methods and stuff with names that I'm not going to even bother going through, because again, we're not a science podcast. And also, one scientist suggested if we become better versed with kind of the genes of the Neanderthals and the Homo sapiens, for example, if we were to understand that Neanderthals had much more body hair than we know, this would make sense for not needing fire during colder periods and being able to survive in the glacial periods.
Well, I'd assume they would anyway, because they're closer to the ancestor of being a monkey.
That would make sense. But essentially, yeah, finding that in our genes.
I wonder if people will ever be hairless, because if you think about it, people often shave. And like, if our body in like 100 years, like,
I wish
women
that
will just be
happened
like,
now.
you got laser, haven't you?
Yeah, save a lot of time. So yeah, and then hunting, I think, you know, the big debate was always, well, what were the hominids doing? Were they basically taking the remains from animals that had already hunted, or were they hunting themselves? Hunting has existed for 2 million years, everyone. How do they know this? So from like punctured bones, that's the oldest evidence of hunting essentially. And this evidence also suggests that, you know, Homo sapiens were very intelligent with what they were doing, because to get basically punctured marks into bone, you'd have to be very close to the animal to do that. So that means the technologies they were developing for hunting were very efficient, and they were much smarter than we believe to think. So there's that, which is really exciting. And also, very finally, cooking changed our evolution.
It did. Crazy stuff.
Man, oh man. Our jaws, for starters. So when, obviously, imagine trying to eat a raw piece of meat. That's quite an effort, right? It's quite a job. So obviously, back in the day, they used to have big gnashers. But then through, what's it called? Evolution, thank you. I was going to say ecology. Through evolution, that changed, because if with cooking meat, obviously it makes it softer. So jaws started being formed, smaller teeth. And also, they had more energy, because A, you don't have to chew so much with the raw meat. And also, you get more energy from cooked food than you do raw food. That's me.
It also changed the neurons in the brains, and it allowed them to develop at a much more rapid pace. Because remember, prehistory is a long period of time.
Long.
Very, very long. Mm-hmm. So when you got towards the end of it, a change in production of the food that you're eating, and it does change the brain chemistry that's going on up there, the speed in which it changes is going to be quite rapid. So really, the cooking meat is this is how it got us to where we are today with these noggins.
We are what we're like because of cooking.
Guys, gotta love our show. Okay, so obviously we've now had the old guys, so we're going to come through with the new ones. It was time for the Neolithic Revolution to begin, also known as the Agricultural Revolution. And the reason that it's called this is because it was a time where people really wanted to settle down, lay their roots in the land, and start cultivating their own food and domesticating their animals to make their lives easier. Obviously, as we explored in the last episode, hunter-gatherers were nomadic people. So they were travelling around a lot. They were going to different places to find their food sources. And as seasons changed, so did they. They would travel. They would get from this place to that place. However, with the Neolithic Revolution, people were like, nah, we could more easily stay in one location and start cultivating plants and livestock. And now with this is essentially what paved the way for modern civilization. It was crazy. Some of the plants that they would cultivate included wheat and barley and corn. It really depended on the location, what was easiest to grow. They also domesticated animals. So this would have been used for labor, obviously food. If you had cattle, it would be, well, not this isn't food, but milk and eggs with chickens as well. Although actually, now that I've just said that, I've never read anything about a chicken, so I really like chickens. I've added that myself. Anyway, but it would also be used like the meat process as well as foods and dairy and drinks. It would also be used for jewellery and clothing and decor. The uses were limitless, okay? Also, they started building houses because more people would live in one location, and they decided to create little villages for everybody to live in. This then developed into cities and, you know, bigger areas and more extremities. But back then, a lot of them were like villages were made out of wood, and they would build houses. It was also a crazy time for the development of technology, because obviously you're planting loads of bits and bobs. You need a way that's more efficient than human hands to get stuff packed in and together. So they came up with ways to make, what's it called, ploughing equipment and stuff like that.
I wouldn't know, but I believe. Yeah, ploughing the fields.
Yeah. So, as well as technological advancements, there were also societal and cultural changes as well. And now this is something that I found so interesting, is that the Neolithic Revolution actually led to the first, I guess you could say, social divide or class divide, because at the time, it's not a level playing field where everybody's having to be hunter-gatherers and do all the foraging like me and Hannah did so beautifully last week. But some people were able to do the farming, and because there was so much coming through, other people could afford to not specialise as farmers, but instead could become leaders or, I suppose, in some ways writers, because this is the time that writing sort of came in very differently. It probably would have been more drawing like, but yeah, traders, artisans, the whole lot. So the way that humans interacted with each other completely changed. However, it's very important to keep in mind that the revolution did not all happen at the same time. It spans, I think, thousands of years, and it really depended on the region that you were living in as to how quickly it would advance. But one of the oldest ones, and the first believed, not country of the revolution, but it was in the Fertile Crescent, which is now the Middle East, and that happened about 10,000 years ago. So because it's such a rich natural land with like good soil and whatnot, that's where that started. Then in China in 7000 BCE, it was known that the rice and millet cultivation was happening. And then 6000 BCE in Mesoamerica, they were cultivating corn. So different places around the world giving different things. We're going to do a quick case study into a place that I so desperately want to go to now.
I thought you'd been.
No. When did I say that?
I thought you'd been anyway.
Okay, there's a place called Skara Brae, and now this is...
I thought you were talking about Stonehenge, sorry. I jumped the gun.
We'll go to Stonehenge later. We've got to go around the UK, guys. Anyway, so Skara Brae is in Scotland. It's on the Orkney Island. And it is the oldest civilization location. In Northern Europe. So, basically, 5,000 years ago, there were Neolithic farmers that lived there. This place is interesting because all the houses were made out of stone. Rare for the time, because most places things were made out of wood, but it's there's not a lot of trees there, so they made it out of stone. And about 2,500 years ago, there was a massive sandstorm and it all got blown over, and you couldn't find anything until 1850. There was another storm which blew off the sand. So people...
Wait. A sandstorm in Scotland?
Yes, on one of the islands. It's tiny.
I'm just trying to
It's a
think
coast.
the sand to have knocked down stone houses.
It didn't knock them down. I don't know. It buried them.
Oh, that makes more sense. That makes more sense.
It buried them.
Okay.
And because it was so well buried, it managed to preserve the whole village.
Oh, that's so exciting.
So, as I was saying, in 1850, there was another major storm that happened and it blew away quite a bit of it. So, it was then founded. And these, I mean, I was looking at pictures, we'll insert some. It just seems so intricate for the time. Like, you had your main living room sort of vibe, and then they used to have, this is a real kicker, they used to have shelves to display their ornaments. So you know how in houses today, you go in and people...
You know how in houses today we have shelves.
No, but like people have like display shelves, or like in my family around the fireplace. That's when we got a couple of pictures up. Yeah. They used to have like the same thing, but instead it would be their prized possessions of things like, you know, jewelry or like the antlers. Or I don't know if you get do you get deer up there? I don't know. But point being, lots of animal bits and bobs. They'd have it like around the house.
Wouldn't robbings have been more common back in the day though?
No, because I've actually got some information on that. So basically, you couldn't lock the door from the outside. Yeah. But however, when you were in the house, you could lock it. Do you know how mental that is? So what they would do, they'd have these big stone doors. Yeah. And then they would like close it, and then there would be like a little carving out at the bottom, and through there they'd place like an animal's bone or a piece of wood or a stone, so they'd be able to lock their house for some privacy. However, if you go there now, you'll see that it's very close to the beach. So it looks like the place they got located, they got a beachfront apartment. Back in the day, it wouldn't have been like that. Because of the coastal erosion that's happened over the past thousands of years, the coast has become a lot closer. But it was a great location because not too far away they could go and get limpets. Is that what they're called? I don't know. Or like shellfish. Like little sea creatures, and they'd eat from there. And then behind on the other side, they had this big freshwater lake, I think. And there you could go fishing. But essentially, I just think they're so cool. Like, that's so amazing, cool. Like, and you can literally go and see it today, and it just looks incredible. Like, so otherworldly and so old, but it's like, you know, I think I was just blown away by how complex it was. Anyway, another quick case study we're going to do is Stonehenge. Do you want to say anything on this?
I have a lot of questions about Stonehenge. My main one is, do the stones move?
No. What?
How are they still there after this many years and they haven't moved? Are they like lodged in the ground?
They're about 25 to 30 tons per stone. They're incredibly... Okay, basically...
So how did they get the stones up?
Right, we're going to go over this with my construction degree. I know absolutely nothing about this.
Because do you know what you know the new news about, have you seen about the pyramids, about the pillars underneath?
Yeah.
In my head, that's what's happening at Stonehenge, because I was like, how has no Donnie gone over and tried to knock over the stone?
Right, okay. Hannah didn't even know that you could see Stonehenge, or...
I had no idea that you could just drive past it. It's just that open.
Half my family lives in Somerset, so on the way from London to Somerset, we do often pass it.
I've never been. I'd like to go though.
But it's beautiful. I mean, I take a picture every time I go past it. It's very cool.
I've never sent you one.
I'll send it to you now. It's in Salisbury, which is a quaint little village. Shout out to our Salisbury fans.
There is one of you.
There's two!
Oh yeah, sorry. I know where my friends are from, carry on.
I think. Anyway.
Yeah.
So basically, it all started a long time ago, about 5,000 years. So around the same time as Skara Brae. Yeah. And it didn't start off with the rocks. It started off with this big circular moment that had been dug in the ground with deer antlers. Can you imagine how crazy that is? And then people took from the north of Wiltshire these massive rocks, and it's believed that they were moved along by having lots of wooden, not poles, but yeah, poles and on the floor, and then they would roll it along. And then now this is where my construction is really not going to go very well. they had these big kind of lever things that would pull them up. I don't know how they did it, to be honest. And then they would place rocks on top. So if you look at Stonehenge, we'll insert some pictures. You have like two things there, and then you have something going across. What's interesting is the way that it's inserted is they have these two little bumps on the, they'd like carve out two little bumps on top of the standing ones. And then the one that lays across the top of it, they'd cut out two bumps. And then you have something that you get in carpentry a lot, which is, I want to say lock and tongue, but that feels wrong. Where, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, just different connection points, right? You get like a mortar joint, and it's like different genre of how two pieces of wood are connected.
Yeah, basically.
Thank you, Harry.
They'd slot it in, but this is so rare for stone. This only really was seen in woodworks.
Is this why it's so spiritual then? And
I mean, there's so many questions about that, but we'll finish off the rest of the stone first. Then here's what I've always found a bit bizarre. Lots of the smaller stones have been brought over from, I think it's about the south of Wales, and it's this blue stone or something, and they travelled all this way with it. I'm too lazy. That's a long trek. And then that's all the little stones that they have. But basically, it used to be this big circular moment, and everything was going on. So there's not all of it survived. It's only a bit that's there still. To answer your question. But it was believed to be made for spiritual reasons, rituals, the whole lot. Yeah. I think lots of people go there now for summer solstice.
And winter.
And winter solstice. Have you heard the song, Must Be the Season of the Witch on TikTok?
No.
It's what I think about when I think about it. Anyway.
I hope it lasts forever.
Oh, and also, I don't know about Stonehenge, but Skara Brae is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which means it's very important.
Surely Stonehenge is as well. Surely.
Stonehenge is as well. So there you have it. Anyway, did you have any more questions about Stonehenge?
No, you've actually answered them all. Because my whole thought was, why hasn't someone tried knocking over the stones yet? Why is there not security on the premises?
Yeah.
Apparently there is security.
You can't. Yeah, you have to book tickets.
But how can you drive past it?
No,
there's a road.
There's the A20 or something. I can't
The
remember
the A33.
No, I'm imagining, you know how you see
A33.
like the little walkway next to it? Like, I was imagining that's the road where like
No, it's
cars...
on the side of the hill, like you can barely see it, and that traffic is so bad down there because
Everybody slows down.
Oh.
So they're trying to make another road.
Don't tell me you have to pay to go see some stones.
Well, you can see it from a distance, but if you want to get
if you want to go close,
then you pay.
I feel like if anybody's ever seen Outlander, where she touches the wall and she goes back to the 1800s.
Don't spoil it.
Fam, it's like that first episode is 4 seasons long at least. Anyway, I'd love to go to Stonehenge, touch, and then be transported back.
On the meat. The recipe we're doing for you today, I know there hasn't been one in a while, guys, apologies, but also I think for all our sakes, that's it's a bit better for us all. There was another site that's actually 2 miles away from Stonehenge, and it's called Durrington Walls, and this is again one of the largest and most important Neolithic sites in the UK. And what they found there, in terms of the meat that they were eating, was from bones and teeth, 90% of it was pigs, and the rest was cattle. So, and also they knew that with pigs, they roasted them on an open fire due to burnt foot bones.
Have you ever had a hog roast?
I've seen one in action. Have I ever gone and had one? I don't think so, but I don't know why, like, it's always looked so appealing. Like, it is horrible, like, it's a pig being cooked, but, like, just the meat.
What do you think bacon is?
No, I know, but when you see, like, the pig
The
that's got the
face.
apple as, like, a gag in the mouth, and it's, like, you know what I mean? It's, like, quite full on, but then the meat looks like it would be delicious.
I've had one in my life.
Oh, is it good?
Yeah, 10/10 recommend.
Unfortunately, it's not going to be as elaborate as, like, a whole hog roast, pork roast, whatever you want to call it.
It's going to be even better. We get to watch Hannah make a fire.
We're going to make fire.
Wait, you?
I'm going to attempt to make fire. And we're just going to get some pork medallions and some steak and just hope for the best. So anyway, yeah. See you in a minute.
See you.
So we're going to attempt to make a fire, but I've already failed step 1, which is don't open the package of wood. So hopefully it works. We've got a backup just in case.
She literally read it out to me and then proceeded to open it. I said, didn't it say on the packaging, don't open? She went, where? And then she reads it out for a second time.
We know I wouldn't have survived back in the day, okay?
I would have though.
Right. So I'm just lighting each end.
Oh wow! I know what I was expecting. Not this though.
Oh. Boy, then there was fire. I'm scared, it's really hot.
I missed it!
There's really... Oh, somebody give me the glasses, I'm crying. God. I made fire, guys. Oh. Maddie, move. Maddie. Hey, Maddie, move.
Oh my god! I feel like you need to be sat down so we could be having a chat over the fireplace. I meant on the chair. It's going to have a bit of a cardboardy aftertaste.
Okay. We've smoked.
Yeah, to be fair. The thing that I was wondering is, would they have used seasonings? And if they,
I don't think. Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
and if they did use seasonings, what seasonings would they have used? Oh my gosh, I really wish.
Maddie. Shut up, Maddie.
I think it's normally flour, but I think sugar works.
You think sugar works?
Trying to cook.
I was expecting something so mega. Welcome back to the tasting part of Gobs and Goblets, our favourite moment. We here have a bit of pork and it looks like a bit of pigeon and I'm not very happy about it, but it could...
It smells of pork.
It smells...
All right. It's cooked.
Oh, that's quite burnt, but...
Not bad. Pork.
Smoky. Let's get that steak on.
Right.
They didn't have wine back in the day, but we're gonna have a glass because this is actually tiresome work for two girlies. Right, check it. Okay, now on top, before it gets. There we go. Wow! Look at that. The bottom of it is crisping.
Is it?
I think so. Ooh. Oh my gosh, it's so juicy.
I need help. Guys, I need help. Oh, God.
Wow. Would you look at this? I don't want to drop it. This is our beautiful dinner. Smells like steak. It should taste like steak with a little bit of cardboard extract in it.
Should we just rip it open?
They didn't have knives and forks. So
This is prime. Shall I just rip it for us?
yeah, you do whatever you want, babes. Oh, it's a bit more done than I normally like at flat iron.
Okay, babe, there wasn't. No, it was like still red. It's rare.
That's rare as fuck. Blue. But the outside isn't. It could do with some salt and pepper, but they didn't
That
have
is
that.
literally raw.
Mhm.
You like it raw?
Yeah.
It's a bit raw for my liking.
You can put it back on if you want. I can't get food poisoning, can I? Hello? No.
Hopefully not, we'll see. Do you want some?
What's she saying now that she's a bit more cooked? Mm. I can't do it.
Right there.
Our teeth have clearly evolved as well. That was difficult. Should I put this back on for a minute?
Can do. Do you want to put it on? Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. We hope you learned something. We hope you enjoyed it. And please be careful around fire. Don't do what we did. And hopefully we'll see you in the next 2 weeks.
We will. Bye.
Bye.